I'll call the Thursday, November 30th, 2023 meeting of the Cumberland Planning Board to order. Roll call. Ms. Varsich.
Here.
Mr. McDonald.
Here.
Mr. Butler.
Here.
Mr. Scown.
Here.
Ms. Reese. And the chair is present at the moment. Absent are Mr. Bush, Mr. D'Ambrosia, and Mr. Costa. Okay. Approval of the planning board minutes of September 28th, 2023, and the regular meeting in November 2nd, 2023, special meeting. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve both sets of minutes.
A motion by Mr. Butler.
Second.
Second by Mr. Varsich. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 3, public informational meeting, minor subdivision preliminary plan, owner applicant Catholic Cemeteries, project name Diocese subdivision, location 111 Pine Swamp Road, assessors plat 60 lot 36, zoning A2 with no public water or sewer. The applicant is proposing to subdivide the subject property into 2 lots. No variances or waivers are required. Mr. Modica.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a straightforward application where the property is proposed to be subdivided into 2 lots. The applicant does not seek any waivers or variances, so this is a by right subdivision. And as you know, starting next year, these by right subdivisions of 9 lots or less will no longer be coming before the planning board. They'll be reviewed by the planning department where they can be administratively approved. So for this application, the planning department's recommending approval based upon its comprehensive plan consistency and the findings of fact contained in the staff report.
Does the board have any questions or comments? Hearing none. Is a representative here for Mr. Partington?
Good evening. As Mr. Monica has indicated, this property was, as you can see from the narratives, and both narratives from Insight and from the planning department, there was initial administrative subdivision which exchanged some property, and now the property that's fronting on Pine Swamp, basically 2 lots, one over 6 acres, one over 21 acres. Obviously, no sewer, no water, so you're going to have on-site waste treatment system as well as wells. As you can see, also from the Insight narrative, despite the presence of forest wetlands and some swamps and a stream, that the DEM has indicated that there's no need for any permits, freshwater wetland permits. Also, the narrative from Insight describes the erosion control, which are the fiber tubes. Basically, as Glenn also said, this is a situation where no need for waivers on anything to do with the lots configurations, and well over the minimum lot size requirements for the zone. Single-family homes on each one, as you can see, are also planned. And by the way, I'm sorry. Oh, I just want to say that also that there's someone from Insight Engineering here tonight. Have any questions relating to engineering?
Mr. Butler?
It's just kind of a nosy question as opposed to anything involved in the application, but the land's owned by the diocese. So is it the diocese that's building the single family homes, or is it another developer, or?
I'm unaware. I don't know if Insight's aware. No, I'm unaware. No.
Okay. Thank you.
That was a pretty fair question. Yeah. Remember, I'm doing the Lord's work tonight, so.
Just one question, because of the plan doesn't show the entire area.
Yep.
Plat 60 lot 25, which is also owned by the diocese. Where does that have frontage?
25, lot 25?
Yeah, plat 60 lot 25. It's adjacent to. I'm assuming it has frontage somewhere else. We're not landlocking a property.
Well, that's not one of the 2 lots involved here, correct?
Right, I'm just, yeah, it's behind it. It's right, you
I
know,
would, I mean, so you're talking from in the southerly portion?
yes,
I would assume that's West Grantham.
okay, because it doesn't show, and I.
Yeah, no,
I'd
yeah,
ask it anyway.
you're right, you're right. I would assume that's West Grantham.
Like, Mr. Chairman, I would just say, though, that this subdivision does not affect that lot, so whether it's landlocked or
No,
not.
no, all right.
No,
I
I-
I
I just wanna be
understand that.
clear.
I was just curious
Yeah,
as to,
but you're not creating a landlocked lot, that's what I'm
right,
saying.
yeah.
That was a nosy question, Mr. Kuchar.
Excuse me?
No, I'm sorry. No.
Hey, I like to dot the i's and cross the t's. Does the board have any other questions? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, in regards to the application for 111 Pine Swamp Road, Assessors Plat 60, Lot 36, I'd make a motion that we approve the,
Mr. Chairman,
oh, sorry, public
Sorry,
comment.
sorry. Is there anyone in the audience that has any questions or comments regarding this application? Thank you, Ms. Salvatore.
We have 5 people on Zoom tonight.
Okay,
So if there's anyone attending virtually on Zoom, there's a raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen. And if you'd like to speak to this matter or any of the other matters, you just need to click the raise hand. And we do have one person. Don Hamilton. If you could state your name and address, please.
Sure, it's Don Hamilton. We're at 107 Pine Swamp Road. I unfortunately have not had an opportunity to look at the plans, but I'd like to understand how many homes are proposed, what the proposed price range is for those homes, and whatever else you could tell us about this development.
I can tell you there are 2 homes. There's one lot is being split into 2, so one house will be on each lot. We don't consider what the sale prices are going to be.
Okay.
Did you have any?
What's the proposed timeline for constructing the homes?
I can answer that, because they said that they don't know what the diocese is gonna do with these lots. This is just a simple subdivision, so they could hold them, they could sell the lots, they could develop them themselves. There's no specific timeline.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
thank you. I apologize for jumping the gun. Is there anyone else?
If there's anyone else virtually who'd like to speak to this matter, just click raise hand. And any other item that's coming up, click raise hand and we can promote you to panelists and you can speak.
Okay, and there's no one here in the audience that has any questions? Going once, going twice?
Take 2. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the preliminary plan for 111 Pine Swamp Road, Assessors Plat 60, Lot 36, based on the finding of facts in Mr. Modica's memo to the Planning Board dated November 21st, 2023.
I have a motion by Mr. Butler. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Reese. Any other discussion? Hearing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item of business, item number 4. Thank you, Mr. Parrington, same to you. Public informational meeting, Town Council recommendation and development plan review, owner McMahon Family Association LLC, applicant JSC Management LLC, location 1715 Mendon Road, Assessors Plat 39, Lot 292. The petitioner requests that the property presently used as a Burger King be rezoned from C1 to C2 and seeks development plan review approval to add a second ordering lane. Mr. Modica.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the Burger King at this location, it's a pre-existing non-conforming use. The building has been used as a fast food restaurant for about 50 years. Fast food is not a permitted use in the C1 zone, which is in, so the applicant's requesting a recommendation to the town council to rezone the property to C2 to make it legally conforming and to expand the use. So as part of the development plan review, the applicant is also seeking to add a second ordering lane. Right now, there's one lane for ordering, one pickup window. In the future, there will be 2 ordering lanes, and cars will merge into a single lane towards the existing pickup window. When they conducted the property survey, it was apparent that some of the parking spaces that are on the south side of the property were actually partly on an adjacent lot. This actually turns out to be a benefit to the project in that these parking spaces are going to be removed and they're going to be replaced by a landscape buffer, as well as a 6-foot fence along the south lot line. So both of which will help reduce the sound coming out of the speakers to the adjacent residential property that's to the south. The net result of the project is that parking requirements will still be met, even though some spaces will be removed. And with the additional ordering lane, the requirement for stacking vehicles and drive-throughs will also be met. So the planning department finds that the rezoning and addition of the ordering lane is consistent with the comprehensive plan. It's compliant with the land development subdivision regulations and zoning ordinance, and because there are other existing highway commercial uses, such as fast food, gas station, car wash, auto repair is what you would see in the C2 zone. We find the project is compatible with surroundings, and we recommend forwarding a favorable recommendation to the town council for rezoning the property to C2 and approval of development plan review.
Does the board have any questions for Mr. Modica? Okay, thank you. Is the Mr. Mancini, long time no see.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, members of the board. John Mancini on behalf of the applicant JSC Management LLC. The petition before the board is twofold. One, as your planner indicated, it's a request for a zone change, so we're here for a recommendation to the town council. And secondly, we're here for development plan review. The goal is to rezone this property from C1 to C2. As your planner indicated, I mean, they've been making burgers at this property for over 50 years or close to 50 years. They must be doing a good job because it's been there for quite a while. However, the time has come to retrofit this property, modernize it, and give it a more conducive look, if you will, from the outside and inside. So in doing that, we discovered, as your planner indicated, that there's some encroachment. The proposed plan will rectify that issue to the satisfaction of the abutter. It's also going to reduce some impervious space, create additional landscaping, and at the same time, as I indicated, modernize the drive-through. Changing it from C1 to C2 makes sense. It doesn't make sense the way it is, especially given the fact that it's been utilized as a fast food restaurant for so long. We anticipate being there for at least another 20 years and probably more. Unless you can get virtual burgers, I think we're in good shape. So with that, I also have our engineer from Cataldo Associates that has designed this and can go through for you the site and specifically the changes that we're proposing and how we think it's going to ameliorate this property. And importantly, we'll focus on the reduction of the parking spaces and also the drive-through. The queuing meets your requirements. We're not seeking any variances. So I think that this is going to be a betterment for Mendon, for that area and for Mendon Road. So with that, unless there's any questions to me, I want to turn it over to
The board have any questions? Mr. McDonald?
Has there been an issue with traffic encroaching on Mendon Road at all?
No, and we did, at the request of the town, we did provide a traffic impact study, a traffic opinion letter. It is part of the report that we've submitted. This certainly isn't going to change the traffic. It's not like we're making it bigger. We're not intensifying the use. We think what we're actually doing is de-intensifying the traffic aspect of it. We're performing the function that's going to allow for a uniform exit and entrance, meaning that you can order from outside, you then go into one single lane and you come back around. If you've gone to any revamped Burger King or Taco Bell or Kentucky Fried Chicken, Chick-fil-A, you'll see that seems to be the ongoing pattern in the system that they're now invoking with these types of fast foods. And they're actually, the floor plate, if you will, the dining room area is becoming smaller. I don't know if people are eating in their cars in the driveway or in the parking lots, but that's the mindset. And COVID really illustrated the importance of drive-throughs. And so now many of these fast food entities, Burger King in particular, is revamping all their drive-throughs throughout Rhode Island. So we've seen it done in Johnston, seeing it done in Cranston, seeing it done in Providence as well.
Thank you.
Board, any other questions for Mr. Mancini?
Just a question.
Um,
Just a comment.
Mr. Scum?
Just to be clear, the parking on the south side, the right side, that's being eliminated
Yes.
in order to accommodate?
Yeah, it's going to be eliminated, and in lieu, there's going to be some additional landscaping. I think we're losing 10 parking spots, but we're still going to have the adequate required of 40. Your code requires 36, but we'll have 40 that'll be available.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Mancini.
So with that, I'll have the engineer just show you the boards, just
Certainly.
because it's development plan review, and I want you to
Yep.
see the plans. Yeah, the boards.
I do, if they like,
Yeah.
or the audience, they should have the plans. Matt Yanuskewicz from R.A. Cataldo and Associates. Glenn did a great job of describing the project, as did John. A little bit extra about it. Besides the drive-through lanes, the ordering station, we are relocating the dumpster location because that's in the corner, the back corner of the property. So that's being relocated to another part of the lot that will still have access for any kind of dump truck or garbage truck that's going to be grabbing the garbage. And as well, we are relocating the handicap spaces. The handicap spaces right now are right at the beginning of the ordering station. Not the best place in the world for handicap spaces for people to cross where the most amount of traffic coming into the property is. With that relocation, the handicap, we're also redoing some of the walkways to make sure that they meet obviously handicap codes. That's pretty much the scope of the project for this particular site. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Board, have any questions? Mr. Scum?
Just to be sure, the trash area is enclosed?
Yes. Burger King has our standard enclosures.
The only concern I have, and I don't think there's any way you can alleviate the situation. We're talking about the handicap spaces, and they're about as close to the entrance as possible, correct?
They've got to be as close, we want them as close to
Yeah.
the building as possible, yes.
Yeah, my concern is, and then it's just a situation where that's going to be traffic flow coming across there.
And in my research, now that we're dealing with a lot of Burger Kings in the area, our company, it seems like 80% is drive-through.
Yeah,
So, and they would be coming around where they've been coming basically since the beginning of time on that site.
no, I just worry about people not paying enough attention, and then all of a sudden,
We looked at putting the handicap spaces in other locations, but we couldn't make the grades work to meet code. That is the one place we can make it so everybody can access it.
well, the other situation would be, if there's no other place to locate it, because you want that to be as close as you can to the entrance.
That's,
yeah.
and we've eliminated the parking spaces along the south side where
Right.
they used to be, which wasn't the best location either.
I don't have any other questions. The only comment I had, is the reason why I'm sensitive to it, I have a relative who is wheelchair bound, and I spend quite a bit of time with him, and I've experienced a myriad of things.
I'm sure you've had many of a headache
Yeah,
in certain situations.
so that's the reason why I asked the question. I just wanted clarification. Thank you.
Understandable.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Mr. Modica, is there anyone in the queue?
Let's see. We do have about 8 people right now. So if any of the attendees on virtually would like to speak, just click the raise hands feature at the bottom of your screen. And we do not, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone here in the audience that has any questions or comments at this point regarding this application? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Mr. McDonald?
Mr. Chairman, in the matter of ordinance 23-18, amending the zoning map for Assessors Plat 39, Lot 292, 1715 Mendon Road, that the board make a favorable recommendation to the town council to rezone this property from C1 to C2 and to approve the development plan review application. And to be included in the memo is Mr. Modica's memorandum, included in the motion is Mr. Modica's memorandum to the board dated November 22nd, 2023.
I have a motion by Mr. McDonald. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Scown. Any of this further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Before we continue, I just want to note for the record that Mr. D'Ambrosia had entered the chambers at 6:35 PM. Okay, let's see. Next item of business is item 5, public hearing, comprehensive permit, master preliminary plan. Yes?
And I wasn't paying attention, but Mr. Mancini's asking, did you take a motion on the DPR?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry, thank you.
I put that in the same, I put that in the motion along with sending a,
That's fine, you can combine them, thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Item number 5, public hearing, comprehensive permit, master preliminary plan, owner applicant Joseph Almeida, 213 Corporation, project name 751 High Street, location 71 High Street, Assessors Plat 10, Lot 271. Zoning R3 with public water and sewer. The applicant proposes to create 2 affordable residential units in the basement of a 4-unit apartment building, 6 units total, and is requesting approval to combine master and preliminary plan, waivers for minimum lot area, maximum lot coverage, and parking space setback, and approval of the combined master plan, preliminary plan. Mr. Modica.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So here we have an existing apartment building built around 1980 that has 4 rental units. The applicant is proposing to create 2 units within the raised basement portion, both of which will be affordable and deed restricted for 99 years. Other than interior improvements, the only site work will be adding additional parking to meet the 2 space per unit requirement. So while very little is occurring on the property, 3 variances are still required. The first is a waiver from minimum lot area. This 5,000 square foot lot can have 3 units. As I said, the building was erected around 1980, so it's pre-existing non-conforming with 4 units, and 2 additional units are proposed. Second waiver is for lot coverage. The existing property is already pre-existing non-conforming, and there'll be a slight increase in impervious cover to add the additional parking. And finally, the parking spaces slightly overlap the 10-foot side yard setback requirement, which we believe is a de minimis action that will not impact the surrounding neighborhood. So we find the waiver requests are reasonable and appropriate due to the fact that 2 affordable housing units and no market rate units will be created in this pre-existing building. Planning Department finds the project is consistent with the comprehensive plan, and we recommend combining master and preliminary plan, approving the waivers, and approval of the combined master and preliminary plan.
Mr. Butler.
Mr. Morgan, so just to clarify, so I read in Mr. Pimentel's report that, so there are 6 units existing in the building currently,
Okay,
correct?
I don't know.
Okay, all right.
I
the
don't know,
applicant can
I don't
talk
know
about
the
it.
situation there.
Okay.
I just have a question that maybe I should know, but how does the town monitor the affordable rent?
We don't monitor them. The applicant has a monitoring agency that does it every year.
An agency does it?
An agency comes around every year. They verify income, they verify rent to make sure they're within, they're paying 30% of their monthly income in rent.
Okay.
So we
Do
do
you
not
get
do.
that report?
We get a listing of our affordable housing units. We don't get an annual report.
So nobody double checks whether it's accurate or not, I guess?
I mean, we have a list of what's on the books, and we know when our affordable housing is rolling off. We know it in a broader sense. We don't know what people are paying or what their incomes are.
Okay,
I mean, I suppose that is information, we could find out.
yeah. No, I'm just curious how you monitor it. Okay.
Who does the agent report to? They report to
In
Random
this
Housing?
particular case, it should be in the application. I don't recall.
I don't recall either, because I read
I
through
don't
the whole
either,
thing.
yeah, okay.
I was aware of the agent and their role as they inspect the units and so on and
Right.
so forth.
And they check
The rents and so on.
the rents and the household income.
Yeah, I don't recall who they would report to, but I would assume it would maybe Rhode Island Housing, I'm not sure.
I don't think they monitor.
No.
Usually like Valley Affordable could be a monitoring
Oh,
agent.
okay, yeah,
Someone like that.
yeah, that makes sense. Any other questions for Mr. Modica? Is the applicant's representative here?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Scott Levesque. I represent Mr. Almeida in the project applicant. Let me lead the discussion by answering the question you asked about the monitoring agent. It's actually Molina Lodge, the company, forgive me, my eyesight's getting bad, Community Housing Land Trust of Rhode Island. They do this statewide.
Right.
I know Molina Lodge from my dealings in Westerly, very professional unit, very reliable. So that's going to be the person or the entity monitoring the low and moderate income housing. As far as the project goes, this is in the R3 area of town, which is exactly where you expect high density to be. And in particular, what is existing is 4 market rate units. And the beauty of this project from the town's perspective is because it's a comprehensive permit, we get a density bonus, but this project is not adding one single market rate unit to you folks, and instead is giving you 2 low and moderate income housing units to count towards your 10%. So it's essentially, in my opinion, 100% affordable, because the only thing we're adding is LMI. We're offsetting additional units that already exist. In my opinion, it's one of the best ways to achieve affordable housing for a town, because you don't get penalized by the density bonus that you otherwise would under the statute. And it really renders the low and moderate income percentage, the statute says we have to have at least 25%. This is at 33.33%, so it's higher even there than we would be required to under the law. Again, very minimal disturbance with respect to this project. The 2 units that are at grade, I was scolded for calling it basement level, they're at grade. Those 2 units are the 2 new units that were in some fashion roughed out by the prior owner, but they're not units at this point, is my understanding. There's plenty of there's 2 means of egress for the units, so that's not an issue. Really, it's the only other issue to raise is the impervious surface that's being added, which, as Mr. Modica indicated, is really de minimis here. And if you looked at the site plan, it really improves traffic flow into the site and organized parking. So I think the project really fits very well and is designed very well. Again, we're asking for combined master and preliminary, as Mr. Modica indicated. We're also asking that the final plan be delegated for administrative review. And then the 3 waivers, you've heard of those. I won't go through them again. I do have Mr. Pimentel here, who's a professional planner, is here to testify about the consistency with the comprehensive plan. And I have Mr. Hanson here, who is the engineer who designed the project. My custom and practice is to have them testify briefly to the board unless the board has enough of what it needs on the reports. So if Mr. Chair, if you'd allow, I'd call the witnesses. Otherwise, if you don't need to hear from them, we can move on.
I'll ask the board.
My only question was the question I asked Mr. Modica, which I think you already partially answered. So the 2 units on the
Basement.
basement, well, you're right, the
At
window's
grade.
like halfway, it does, yeah, it's kind of an odd. I live near that, so I just always assumed there was 6 units in there, because there's three sets of windows. But those aren't occupied units.
That's my understanding. They're certainly not counted units. They were never legal units. So however that situation unfolds, the bottom line is they will become low and moderate income units now tonight. And I don't want to misrepresent to the board, whether they were used at some
Yeah.
point or not.
I guess my only question was if they're currently market rate, how you then turn them affordable, if there were people living there, but if they're not
They're not even
finished and they're
countable
not
units.
occupied, then
Yeah,
it's not an issue.
they're not even countable units because
Yeah.
if they are all done and used, they're not legal. So.
Thank you.
Yeah. So up to you, Mr. Chair. I can call the witnesses.
Board, all set? Do we need to hear from any of the experts? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So if there's anyone in the audience that has any questions or concerns, please come forward, give us your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My questions are,
Excuse me, name and.
oh,
address.
Roger Brooks, 755 High Street.
Thank you.
Two addresses down from this property. I think that the affordable housing, providing affordable housing units in this location is exemplary and a good thing for the town. However, I am concerned about what was just talked about, that and it's on page 3 of the, it's page 15, excuse me, of the total document. It's numbered page 3. The present number of physical units is in question, 4 appearing to be the number that is properly recognized by the community. However, there are in fact 6 units present, the latter 2 necessitating regulatory correction. And then on the next page, skipping down to the top of the next page, the applicant has owned the property since minimally 2013, entirely unaware that the additional 2 units have been previously introduced in a questionable manner.
Just so everybody knows where you're reading from, it's Mr. Pimentel's report, page 3 of 12. Sorry.
Thank you
Starting
for
down
that.
at the bottom, present property conditions.
Right. And at this point, I'm at the top of page 4. That's marked page 4 of 12. Introduced in a questionable manner. Nevertheless, it must be reemphasized that the 2 units in question have been present in excess for a decade without any apparent neighborhood disruption. Now, I heard it just mentioned that when you asked the question if they are presently occupied, that the answer was, I don't know. I don't think that's an adequate answer. I think we need to know if they are and have they been recently. And if they are, is the current rent, does it meet the requirements for the low income housing? And assuming that in the case that they are occupied and people are currently paying a higher rate, will that rent be reduced? And again, we don't know what that means, as you asked the question,
Mr. Butler.
Mr. Butler.
Mr. Butler. One of you had asked the question about what constitutes who's going to monitor it, and
Mr.
and I would ask what constitutes low income. But there are all kinds of other questions that come up to my mind. Was the town aware that this building was built? Was it originally built with these 2 additional units and not in compliance with what I assume would have been a permit for 4? Was there ever an occupancy permit issued? Was there inspections of these 2 units that are mysteriously there at this point? Were there ever any inspections done, electrical, plumbing, sewer, et cetera? I think these matters need to be looked into before this can be just approved.
Ms. Salvatore?
So with respect to whether the units are, and I don't know if they're units or not, but with respect to whether the property is being rented illegally, that would be an enforcement issue. So if there is an issue, usually it's complained about to the building department. The building department goes out and issues a violation. I'm not aware of any violations that have been issued. With respect to whether they have been rented, if they have to come into compliance. Again, it would be illegal for them, if this matter is approved, to continue to rent them at a market rate. So if this gets approved, the building department kind of takes over with permits. It will be inspected. There will be monitoring agreements that have to be provided to the planning department. So going forward, this will all be addressed. In terms of what has happened in the past, I personally am not aware of any violations, so we can't, there's really nothing to address. There's nothing to investigate because there haven't been any complaints, as far as I know, complaints filed or anything like that.
Well, my question to that would be, if it was unknown that these 2 units were there, how would there be any complaints? And just because there weren't any complaints does not mean that it's not in compliance.
But I guess I'm not understanding the point. If there were units there being occupied illegally, they are here to correct that, if that's even the case. I'm not saying.
Exactly. We don't know, and that's what I'm saying. There's too many unknowns here.
I know,
in order to proceed with approving this at this point. The town and the people and the abutters have the right to know what the actual situation is.
Yeah,
And again, if there wasn't an occupancy permit for those 2 units, if there was no inspections done, that should happen first before we proceed with this.
well, we're talking in hypotheticals. There's no evidence that these units have been occupied.
And there's no evidence that they
We don't
have been.
deal with hypotheticals.
Well, you're asking me to accept a hypothetical that
I'm
we
not
don't
asking you to
know.
accept anything.
I think you are. I think you're asking this board to accept a hypothetical.
I'm not asking the board to do anything. I represent the board.
Okay,
I'm giving them legal advice.
okay. Well, my advice would be that we need to find out the information before we go forward.
But, so let me just be clear to the board. If you were to find out that these units have been occupied illegally, there would be potentially, if this wasn't approved, some enforcement measures taken. And then they would come to you and do exactly what they're doing tonight. So it's somewhat irrelevant.
So my question is, what's the necessity of moving forward now until that information is gotten?
There's no complaint that there's any illegal occupancy.
Well, I guess I can, if I can, I'd like to complain and ask that that be found out before we move forward with this. Thank you.
I'll hear from the attorney, please.
Unfortunately, my client's traveling tonight, otherwise he'd be here. When I spoke to him last, the plan was that the 2 units, I'll call them, on the grade level were roughed at some point, and that it was his plan, as you can see in the submission items, to take 60 days to get them into shape where they can actually be occupied, and then they'll become low and moderate income housing units. That's the plan. Nothing will change that. So the units, again, I think the solicitor is dead on this. What's happened in the past with respect to these units, whether they've been occupied at any point, is completely irrelevant. We're here today as a comprehensive permit, and the questions that are before you is, they're set out in the planner's memo perfectly, the findings that you need to make, and with respect to how this property may have been used or any units that may have been on site prior, that's not even in the set of findings that you need to make. It's completely irrelevant to your decision-making this evening, and I'd ask that you proceed with approval.
Mr. Pimentel, we're bringing your report into this, so.
So, Mr. Kutu, members of the planning board, it's been a little while.
Yeah.
So probably, I would say probably 60 to 75% of my consulting statewide now is affordable housing. The problem, of course, is the angst with affordable housing, as this board well knows, you deal with it all the time, is A, most projects are utilizing up your precious land resources, your rural land resources, and in turn, you also have to absorb a market rate density bonus to offset, because no for-profit is going to do it if they can do it as a matter of right. So you have to be creative of how we're going to realize the need for housing, affordable housing, meet the regulatory statutory requirement, and yet do so while we're trying to preserve to the best we can our zoning codes and our land resources. So what I've been working with a lot of developers is a lot of these infill developments. So getting to this property, nothing physical is going to happen to this structure. So it's perfectly set up for 6 units. I've worked for Mr. Almeida, and we've done quite a few developments, including affordable housing. And I find the man to man of great integrity. He buys a property. I don't know what was there because I wasn't sure. I'm obviously never going to lie to a board. It appeared to be laid out. We're not sure. What I can state unequivocally to this board is if it gets approved, then he's allowed to go through the building permit process that you end up with 6 units, because there's a difference in code between 4 and 6. 6 units that meet your building, fire code, etc. Otherwise, it's going to retain and maintain a 4-unit. You will not realize any affordability. The 4 market rate are going to stay, and you'll have just an empty lower level. How does that benefit the community? The approval will ensure that that is a safe development, and Mr. Almeida is prepared to make the investment to make sure it is 6 safe units, of which 2 will be affordable, and there is going to be a monitoring agent. It's effective. It works all over the community. I just did the one several months before you on Mendon Road, where we took those 2 structures. They too were non-conforming. The gentleman bought them. There were issues with them from prior owners. He cut off the barber shop, made improvements, brought them up into code compliance. Same situation as tonight's project. Same argument. And that was a win-win too then.
So I think the bottom line is, to be clear, is that before these units are rented, they have to be inspected, correct?
It has to go through the whole building permit process, no doubt about it.
Okay. So at that point is when they'll determine whether there's any violations at that point that have to be corrected before they can be occupied.
Correct, but we can't proceed to that until we get an approval.
Okay, understood.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, sir? Again, please give us your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mark Lamastro, 753 High Street, directly next door. Lamastro, Lomastro. 753, hi. Excuse me, I have a little bit of a cold, apologize.
Authenticity, right?
Yeah, I'll stay far away. I have a couple of concerns. Concern number 1 is increasing the density to the building next door to me by 33%. When I purchased that property 10 years ago, I purchased it knowing that I had a 4-unit next to me, which was actually a rather big detriment to my considering buying it. Knowing it would have been a 6-family I would have negotiated for a lower price. I would not have likely purchased the property. You know, a 4-family is one thing, a full apartment complex is something else. So I'm a little concerned about the additional noise, the additional people on the thing. The affordable housing part, I'm all for it. Turn it all affordable housing. I got no problem with that. It's just simply literally adding 33% more, 6 feet for me. I'm also concerned potentially for property value decline due to the 6-family. And I'm also concerned about the hardscaping of the non-permeous parking lot, which is going to further encroach towards my yard and basically replace almost all the green space, which they don't have a ton back there, but with hardscape. And when it rains, we have very clay soil. I already start to get some pooling and puddling in my backyard already, and losing some additional drainage where everything that hits that parking lot is going to roll off into my yard is also another concern of mine. I'm not sure how that could be addressed.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. McDonald.
Sir, can I ask you a question? When did you buy your home?
It was about 12 years ago.
I'm sorry?
About 12 years ago.
Were the two bottom floors occupied at that time?
I'm sorry, you got to speak up a little bit.
The two floors that are at issue here, the two bottom,
The basement
were
one.
they occupied at that time?
I do not believe so. I try not to be the nosy neighbor staring over, but judging by the number of cars that are in the parking lot, which I can see from my back deck, usually tops out about 6 or 7. And the fact that I never see lights coming from the basement.
Okay, thank you.
I'm making an assumption, but like I said, I don't stare into my neighbor's windows for obvious reasons.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak at this point? Mr. McModica, anybody in the queue?
We do have one person, Brent Elliott. And
Hi,
Brent,
yes,
go
sorry, can
ahead.
you hear me?
State your name and address, please.
Hi, yes, my name is Brent Elliott. I am at 12 Maury Avenue, which is the property that is directly behind the parking lot of the proposed project.
Do you have a statement or a question?
Yes, sorry, I didn't know if you could hear me. So I just would like to back up on what Mark said with the, getting rid of the green space where the water sort of runs off into that parking lot, into my backyard as well. So there is a, kind of significant amount of pooling that happens kind of already in that back space. And then I'm concerned taking away any of that sort of blockage would create even more of an issue. My other concern is, again, affordable housing is fine. I'm not worried about that. I just want to know about safety measures that apartment buildings that do have affordable housing have to take and how those are sort of vetted. So is it background checks? Are there any security cameras that need to be installed? I know those might be personal choices more than anything else, but I guess, I have a, 1-year-old daughter and I have to kind of worry about concerns in life with her going forward. So just kind of want to address how safety or background vetting would be addressed. Thank you.
The only background check is income. There's nothing different about a affordable housing resident or market rate housing resident.
And Mr. Marga, affordable housing, I think the latest term is workforce housing. So it's not low income housing that some people might think of. It's affordable housing, meaning meant for people who are in lower middle to lower income.
It's based on the area median income. So, the median income is 100%. These are rented to people making 80% or households that earn 80% or less.
And I can add to that. So in Cumberland, most affordable housing is going to be about market rate. The people that live there have to have an income. Generally, you're talking about first-year teachers, first-year police officers, people who are downsizing, elderly. You're not talking about the kind of people that I think you're concerned about. But, people have health issues. But this is, it's low and moderate income. So you have to have an income and you have to pay the full rent, whatever that is.
And it's not a subsidized.
It's not subsidized.
It's not.
Correct.
It's subsidized, you're subsidizing it by providing density bonus.
Correct,
That's the subsidy. But the government is not paying the rent. The owner is paying, the tenant is paying the rent to an owner that is providing affordable housing to the community.
Thank you. There's no one else in the queue? Mr. Modica, no one else?
There are still people in the audience. Last chance, if you want to speak to this issue, please click the raise hand button. And we have no one, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. So I'll ask the applicant's representative, is there anything else he would like to add at this point or clarify for us? No. Okay, thank you. I'd like to hear from the board at this point.
I will just say, I understand the concerns of the abutting neighbors. I live not too far from this building, so I pass it multiple times a day. I have always assumed that there were 6 units in that building. It definitely looks like a 6-unit building. So that's why I brought it up, because I was shocked that there were, what really looks like 2 units in the bottom have been vacant for 40 years. But be that as it may, as Mr. Pimentel alluded to, a lot of the affordable housing applications we're looking at are people who are looking to expand existing buildings, create much more density than would normally be allowed in an area. This is taking what was always designed to be a 6-unit building and making it a 6-unit building. So we're not putting an addition, they're not adding a floor, they're not putting something out the back. They're taking what I guess is roughed out space that should have been apartments 40 years ago and actually making them apartments. I understand the concern about, are they rented now? What happened? My first job out of college was working for the city of Pawtucket looking for illegal apartments. After we got past a couple of thousand, we just stopped because we realized you really can't enforce it. People just took these old Victorians and carved them up and put in all these units without ever getting permits. I think, as somebody else alluded to, they're coming into compliance now. So it probably should have been built and permitted and paying taxes as a 6-unit building. It wasn't, but from this point on, it will be. And I think that's the important part, is it'll finally be in conformance with what it probably should have been when it was built. I understand the concerns about more people now being in the building if those 2 units downstairs are actually been vacant for all this time. But they are 2-bedroom units. And while you can't ever project how many people are going to move into a 2-bedroom apartment, I think our experience has been with all of the consultants that we've heard from over the years is that typically in a 2-bedroom apartment, you'll get 2 adults, maybe 1 child, but you typically aren't going to get two parents or two adult household with 2, 3, 4 kids. So I really don't think we're looking at adding more than 4 or 5, at the most 6 people into the building who may not be there yet. So I am not sure that it'll be a huge detriment. Again, I think if they were looking to add on a floor, add an extension off the back to create additional units, I might have more of a problem. But it really is a 6-unit building, constructed as a 6-unit building, for whatever reason, has existed for 40 years as a 4-unit building, but it's really not adding much.
No. I drive by this building, not daily, but several times during the week, and I always thought it was a 6-unit. I would find it odd to have a building that has a basement with all these kinds of windows if the intent wasn't in the first place to have a couple of units in that area. Not knowing the history and all, but it just seems as though that's, whenever they built this, they stopped at the top 2 floors when they built, for whatever reason. But it certainly looks like the intent was to make this a 6-unit building in the first place. So again, as far as affordable units are concerned, it certainly helps the town, especially when you have a building that you're not adding anything to or making any changes to other than bringing up the 2 basement units to code. That's about all I have to say at this point. I don't know if anyone else on the board. Mrs. Scown.
I just have a question in regard to the existing tenants. Have there been any problems with previous tenants or existing tenants for the abutters? No.
Honestly, I have to say I've been very lucky with the people who have been living there. They have an occasional fire pit in the backyard that gets a little rowdy, but I probably do as well, so that's okay. And a little more weed smell than you'd expect, but
Well,
I believe that's actually legal now, so.
the reason I bring it up is that I've owned rental property in the past, And if you monitor and, screen your tenants, generally you can see, or hopefully get tenants that are not going to be disruptive.
Yeah, well, that is the
this
hope,
is-
but as you said, you
this is
don't
a-
know what you're going to get necessarily.
Right,
And
but-
as much as I respect you guys saying, well, it always looked like a six-family to me, I don't care. I mean, if I decide to if I rough in my basement as an illegal apartment in my basement and just come to you 10 years later and say, well, I've been illegally doing this, it's cool now, right? You sit there and say, no, 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 I don't care that that's what you've been doing.
But that's not the issue here. This is a 6-unit building.
But it's not, it was
Well,
zoned a
it's-
4-unit.
it
It's
can
already
legal-
over its max density at 4 units.
It can be legally a 6-unit building.
Well, if you
that's-
sign the paper, it can, otherwise it
Well,
can't.
It fits the criteria. But my point being is that, this is low to moderate income. This is not a situation where this tenant, or the owner rather, should be, not monitoring the people that are coming in.
Notice,
And
I'm
it's
not the
really
one
gonna
who
be
mentioned
market
anything
rent.
about the
These
type
rents
of
are
people
not-
coming in. That wasn't my comment. Mine is simply the density, not the type of person.
I understand. The only other issue I have, and I agree with you, is the issue with the runoff of water because of the
Right,
impervious. If that's an issue, that needs to be dealt with,
but it won't be.
but it will be with the building inspection, so that should be, as far as I'm concerned, something that should be looked at. So on one side, I'm with you, on the other side, I don't totally agree, but I do agree it should be approved as a 6-unit building, so,
Yeah, I kind of figured I wasn't going to have a chance here anyhow.
okay, appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
The engineer is here if
Yeah, I'm
and
gonna-
maybe he should talk
yeah,
about drainage.
Yeah. To be clear, when it comes to these units and so on, and even the proposed addition to the pavement in the backyard, it does become a code enforcement situation that the town will be looking at. But since the engineer's here,
Good evening. For the record, my name is Jeffrey Hansen, registered professional engineer in the state of Rhode Island, president of Millstone Engineering, project engineer for this application. And just to go through the lot coverage, that's the variance that we're looking for, the increase of impervious area. The requirement is 40%. The existing lot coverage is 52.9%. With the increase of pavement to accommodate the required parking and lane widths, we're proposing to increase it to 58.7%. That's a 5.8% increase, and just over 2,600 square feet. And going through these projects, that's a very minimal increase of impervious area. But as part of the project, we're required to demonstrate that we're not increasing runoff off-site from any increase of impervious area, and we'll demonstrate it through the permit process.
now, would that require maybe drainage or maybe just a pervious type of parking?
No, it'll be impervious pavement, but if necessary, it would be just with a rain garden.
Okay. That's, yeah, Mr. D'Ambrosio.
So on the plans, there is mention of an existing catch basin. Is that operational and so that will tend to be pitched on pavement towards that? Oops, sorry. To pitch all of the water towards that.
Towards that basin, yes.
And it's not 100% clear on the plan here. The proposed pavement that's shown on the plan, that's the only area that's getting repaved, or is the entire?
That's the only increase of impervious area.
Okay, but the entire thing is being completely repaved?
Would not be, no, we're not proposing to repave the whole parking area, just an increase in an area that shaded gray area at the rear of the property.
I see. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to bring one more thing up. So I understand that they're asking you to combine master and preliminary plan. So if this was just master plan, on January 1st, things change with comprehensive permits, and the number of parking spaces for 2 bedrooms and under gets reduced to 1. So there is I mean, if people are concerned about drainage, if Jeff, I don't know, he's the engineer, but, and I don't know what the owner wants, because some owners want 2 spaces per unit, which is, it's their prerogative. But there is the opportunity to reduce the parking to 1.5, that, if it's gonna accommodate who's living there.
Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Hanson?
Good.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Again, there is some engineering that is involved with this that will come after. We're looking at whether we're going to allow 2 units of affordable apartments being included into this building. And the engineering will come afterwards, and the code enforcement and inspections and so on. They can't do that unless we approve what they're proposing. Anyone else have any other comments? Pleasure of the board.
So do we need 3 separate motions? One to combine the plans, one for the waivers, and then one to approve the combined plans?
Well, so you need one to combine. The waivers are part of the comprehensive permit, so I don't think you need a separate motion for that. So in other words, you're approving the comprehensive permit with the waivers requested. So that's number 2.
With the waivers requested.
Yes, with the waivers that were requested in the application.
So basically, it's only 2 motions.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion in regards to 751 High Street, Assessors Plot 10, Lot 271, that we combine the master and preliminary plans.
I have a motion by Mr. Butler. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Rashich. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
I will take a roll call. Okay. Ms. Rashich?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
No.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Scown?
Yes.
Ms. Reese? Mr. D'Ambrosio? Yes. And the chair votes yes. So the motion passes 1, 2, 6 yes and 1 no. Mr. Butler?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the comprehensive permit application with the requested waivers approved and delegate final plan approval to the administrative officer based on the findings of fact in Mr. Modica's memo to the planning board of November 22nd, 2023.
I have a motion by Mr. Butler. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Scown. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
I'll take a roll call. Ms. Rashich? Yes. Mr. McDonald?
No.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Scown?
Yes.
Ms. Reese? Mr. D'Ambrosio? And the chair votes yes. The motion carries 6-1. Sir? Oh, you're welcome. Next item of business is item 6, public hearing, comprehensive permit master plan. Owner applicant Tavares Home Solutions, project name Madison Complex, location 5 Hatch Street, Assessors Plat 1, Lot 155, zoning R3 with public water and public sewer. The applicant proposes to build a 2-story, 5-unit townhouse, 2 of which will be deed restricted as affordable. The applicant seeks waivers for minimum lot size maximum lot coverage, and request approval of the master plan. Mr. Modica.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is an undeveloped lot of about 16,000 square feet. The applicant is proposing to build a 5-unit building where the units will be for sale. This is a comprehensive permit application in that 2 of the 5 units, or 40%, will be deed restricted to households earning 120% or less of AMI. So the requirement for sale units is higher than rental units, so people can actually make more than the area median income, and it can be called affordable. This project needs waivers from the zoning ordinance due to the density. So again, similar to the previous application, this type of, let me skip that. Waivers for minimum lot size, the 16,000 square foot lot would normally be allowed to have 2 units, but with the comprehensive permit, more density can be requested. In this case, 5 units. As shown in the table that is in your staff report, this property result in about 13.5 units per acre in terms of density. And this is generally consistent with the current density in the area. Project also needs a waiver for maximum lot coverage due to additional units and the associated parking that goes with that to meet the required 2 parking spaces per unit. One thing I want to point out that's not in your report is the relative size of the building. It's 30 by 100 feet, or 3,000 square feet. This is larger than surrounding houses, but it also sits on a much larger lot. So its building coverage is only about 18%, which is consistent with other homes in the area that are smaller, but sit on smaller lots. So relative lot coverage is about the same. So as you know, in terms of affordable housing, the town is far behind in creating it. We're below 6% and trying to make our way up to 10%. Obviously, 2 out of 5 units is not going to have a great impact in the big picture, but I think what's important here is that we don't keep falling behind or losing ground by only creating market rate units. So in this case, I think every little bit helps us get a little closer. So we find the project is consistent with the comprehensive plan in terms of creating affordable housing. It's compatible with the neighborhood, and the planning department recommends favorably on the master plan.
Does the board have any comments? Mr. McDonald.
I apologize, Mr. Modica, if I missed it elsewhere, but on the very bottom of the first page, you have the Public Works Department deeming it essential to open hatch to accommodate the project. Is hatch to be open?
No, they were out there. I mean, it's fenced off for that adjacent business. It's a town road. Technically, it should be open, but there were no safety or fire hazard issues to pursue that for that property.
I have to ask, okay, you used the word essential. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed the word not. I apologize.
I did that earlier. Any other questions at this point? Is the applicant and his representative here?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Jonathan Tavares, and I'm here on behalf of Tavares Home Solutions, seeking the board's approval of the master plan and waiver requests for 5 Hatch Street. So I'd like to briefly speak about the parcel of land or vision for it, and lastly, speak to the waiver requests. So as Mr. Modica mentioned, the subject property is 16,000 square feet. It's currently a vacant land parcel located on the eastern portion of Hatch Street. It's located in the R3 zone with access to town water and sewer. The lot is a flag-shaped lot that provides natural privacy to the rear of the property, where we're proposing the residential structure be built. Our vision is to construct a 5 two-bedroom townhouse style residential units at the rear of the lot. Each of the units will have 1,200 square feet of living area, and 2 of the lots will be designated as 30-year deed restricted affordable units, which in total would result in 40% of the project creating affordable units. As indicated in the planner's recommendation memo, the fire department supports the project as long as a new fire hydrant is placed within 450 feet of the building and there's a marked fire lane on the property. So while the master plan lays out all of the required parking for the 5 units, meets dimensional setbacks and height restrictions, we are requesting zoning relief for 2 particular requirements. The first being minimum lot area, as was mentioned. R3 zones served by town water and sewer, as you're aware, require 10,000 square feet for 1 residential unit, and each additional unit 5,000 square feet for each. While the lot only currently supports 2 units under current zoning, we're seeking to increase the density of the property by designating 2 of the 3 additional units above the 2 as affordable. We believe that the waiver of the zoning requirement for increased density will, as mentioned, help contribute to the town's goal of increasing affordable housing. Again, it's a small piece in a much larger puzzle. I understand getting to that 10% threshold, but with a project that provides 40% of affordable housing, that's at least 1 step forward. The density rate of this project would be 13.5 units per acre, which is consistent with the density range of the surrounding Valley Falls neighborhood, which is made up of single-family, multifamily properties. It's also designated a high-density residential area. The second waiver request, as mentioned, was the maximum lot coverage. The total allowable lot coverage is 40%, which is 6,400 square feet for the subject lot. The proposed project does have a 3,000 square foot building footprint with 6,778 square feet of paving. So this results in just over 61% of total lot coverage. However, I think it is important to note that the majority of the increased coverage, as Mr. Modica pointed out, is largely a function of the need to accommodate additional parking as part of the proposal for additional affordable units, and should be considered in the context of the entire master plan and the opportunity to create affordable units. Any questions from the board?
Any questions for Mr. Tavares at this point? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience who might have any questions or comments regarding this proposed project? If you're here, please come forward and give us your name and your address for the record.
Hello. Hi, my name is Karen Costa, and the address is 39 Abbott Street. The building that we own is on the corner of Abbott and Hatch Street. Hatch Street originally went through to Haven Street years ago. At some point, there was a fence put up at the corner, and Hatch Street was deemed a dead end. In the time that we've been there, of course, with it being a dead end, we haven't had to deal with traffic. My concern is suddenly there will be 10 or 11 new vehicles at the end of this dead end street coming and using this street daily. Thankfully, it was just paved less than a month ago, I would say. So one of the concerns would be, with this new development, will they be opening up the street that was just newly paved, number one? Number two, can we get traffic relief by opening up that gate that has been put at the end of the street, stopping the street from flowing through to Haven Street? I just think that with that many families coming in, and Hatch Street being a short street and being a dead end, we could end up with traffic jams there morning and evening. And the fact that on Abbott Street, for whatever reason, people like to really drive fast there. And with that many cars trying to navigate from Hatch Street onto Abbott Street, there could be, a problem with somebody maybe getting hit or something. So it's one of these things that, because there's never been a lot of traffic there, I don't know what problems there could possibly be, but it could become a problem. I don't know if the part of Hatch Street that is no longer open, I don't know if that was closed just for the convenience of the Envision company that's there, that has the big factory building. Is that for their private use? Was it deemed, not a public street anymore? Or is it still a public street that can be used, where that gate can be opened and that we can get some relief from the traffic that would only be flowing one way on that street? So that's one of the concerns. Another concern is that I know that that whole area is designated R3. There are some 3 families there are some 2 families, there are some single families. With taking one that is a lot, now I'm sure the lot is plenty big enough to put what they're considering putting, but where was I going with this? If it's an R3 and you're willing to go and add 2 more to it, then would you be willing to give that same type of relief to other people who have an R3 property, who may have an empty garage and want to make an apartment, that may have empty attic space and want to make a couple of apartments? I just want to know that this isn't a one-off deal for someone, and that if someone else has a similar zoning and has enough land mass in their yard where you could put another building or add another apartment, that they would be afforded that ability. And I realize now also that the reason why some of this is happening is because I guess there were some changes made on the state level as to setbacks and things like that, that will be now adjusted to accommodate more housing units in the town. And that's across the state, I believe, that this is going on. Is there any type of plan or gauge to go by as for how dense will we get with all of these units? What if people want to make studio apartments? I can just envision this opening up a can of worms for a lot of people, and I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention, because maybe there's someone there now who would like to do something and they haven't yet. And when they see this happen, they're going to say, well, why wasn't I allowed to do this when I asked 10 years ago? I wanted to put an in-law apartment or an apartment in my basement. So those are basically the things that I'm concerned with overall. And I just wanted to put it out there and let you know what I'm thinking about, so that you can consider some of those things. I think that's all I
Thank
have
you.
to
Does
say.
the board have any questions?
I can address a couple of those
I was going to refer to you right now.
questions. So just R3 doesn't mean 3-family, it means multifamily. So properties in R3 zones can have more than 3 apartments on a lot.
Is there a limit?
It depends on the size of the lot.
Size of the lot, okay.
And in this case, where the applicant is providing affordable housing, they can ask for more than they normally would be allowed. It's called a density bonus. So by providing the affordable housing, they get to do more units to offset the cost of the affordable units.
Okay.
With regard to the street, my understanding from the Public Works Director is the reason there's a fence was because there was loitering, there was a lot of nighttime activity going on. It's very quiet down there. So that's the reason they put up the
That
fence.
tends to be a spot where a lot of trash gets dumped.
And
Another thing to be, I would think that this has already been thought about for the plan, considering that you've thought about putting, the fire hydrant and such, but absolutely, the end of that street needs a street light badly. I've had many times going out there in the day and seeing at the end of the street up against the fence, there's somebody's kitchen cabinets that they tore out, or there's a refrigerator or tires or whatever, what have you. So And since then, there's been a sign put up, no dumping. Who knows who reads that? But, you know, with more traffic flow there, I think that that wouldn't be happening. So that's a good thing. But a street light there absolutely would be a good thing. And is there a reason why that road cannot be opened up to Haven Street? Do we know?
Mr. Modica?
It is a town road, and it can be. And we can explore that with the Public Works Director. I mean, like I said, the reason the fence is there was a lot of dumping, like you said, and a lot of things going on
Right.
on that
But
property.
with more traffic flow, I think that that issue may be alleviated. And personally, rather than having those 10 or 11 cars coming out that one entrance to the street daily, in and out, in and out, in and out, if that road could be opened up, that would really alleviate quite a bit of problems, at least for myself, I know that. So I just wanted to put that out there too. So. Anything else?
Thank
Questions?
you. I think it's a couple of good points that we need to explore with the Director of Public Works about the opening up of the road and.
The opening of the road is concerning.
And probably, I like streetlights anyway, because you really need to have areas lit up so you can not just see where you're going, but it does act as a deterrent too.
Yes, yes.
So those are real good points. Thank you.
Okay.
He answered your questions about the R3 and affordable housing and how that all works.
Yes, that's helpful. But does that then mean that, like I said, what if someone has an empty garage and wants to put 2 apartments in there? Is that going to be something that's going to be, because this is going to, I can foresee that this is going to be a thing.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to respond to that, because these 2 applications that are here tonight are under the current law. So when there is new law that doesn't take effect until January.
Correct, yes.
But, you know, maybe you haven't seen some of the applications that have been before this planning board, but there have been others. So I just want to be clear that this isn't new. This is a law that's been in existence for 20 years. So developers, property owners have always been able to come and request additional density under a comprehensive permit. In January, it gets a little easier for developers.
Correct.
But on today, it's, you know, I mean, and I'm not saying it's not easy, I'm not trying to characterize, but they have to meet certain standards. Those standards are going to be less restrictive starting in January.
Right.
So I just wanted to make clear that these applications are under the current zoning requirements and not the new legislation that you've heard about.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, so those are all, so this particular project is within like the correct setbacks and all of that need to
Yes,
be?
and when you're talking about setbacks, those it's a proportional difference, and those are really meant for substandard lots that should be a certain size that are smaller. They get a different treatment, but I mean, this lot isn't substandard anyway, so it wouldn't even apply to this lot.
Okay,
So,
all right. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody in the queue?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have one attendee right now. So if you're out there virtually, want to speak, please click the raise hand button. And we have no takers?
Okay. So, I'd like to hear from the board.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to bring up a couple of other things. So this is master plan. One of the things I was just talking with Glenn about is this is for ownership, right? This is for sale. So we're going to have to look into what type of homeowners association needs to be, because there's going to be plowing, and maybe you have experience with that, with affordable. But in any event, That will have to be addressed at preliminary plan, as well as any engineering, including drainage. I just want to bring that up because I'm not seeing a lot of their expense and their pro forma going to engineering. And then I do see a little blue spot on, now this is just our GIS, it's not a survey, but there potentially could be an encroachment of, you know, what looks like maybe a pool or a roof, so. No, it's on there. Again, this is not a survey, but I think that needs to be just reviewed and addressed.
And that would be done, obviously, at preliminary.
Yeah, I mean, this is just master plan, but I just want to make sure this is the time to be bringing up things that should be addressed at preliminary.
Certainly.
Okay, if you want to speak, you have to go up to the mic, because, yeah.
So I have a question.
Mr. Scum?
If we go to preliminary plan and that's in January, do any of the rules change as of January 1st?
Yeah, that's what I was
They
going to
really
ask.
do, yes.
Yeah.
They do, so, there, you know, I'm not gonna give legal advice to the applicant, but
Right.
there are changes. In fact, if they just came in January, they would only be subject to a preliminary plan application.
Yeah, that's what I was.
So if he gets master plan approval, that doesn't lock him into the current?
Well, he could, I mean, it's kind of semantics. I mean, he could withdraw his plan and submit a new plan. I don't think we're gonna harp on, you know, that kind of semantics.
Right, okay.
But there will be changes.
Because in January, they could go down to just 5 parking spaces, right?
Correct.
Instead of 11 and that kind of stuff.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's a big one. But anyway, I'm more concerned about like the homeowners association agreement with, because we haven't had a lot of for sale affordable housing that's multifamily, so we're gonna have to address that. I'm sure maybe Rhode Island Housing has maybe a template of, because I don't know if the LMI units pay less, but into the association, I don't know.
Good point, good point. It's an avenue that we have not gone down yet.
Yeah.
Mr. DeBroja, did you have a question, or was it the same as Mr. Scott?
It basically was the same. I feel like we're going to be
Sorry about that.
on two sides of a fence.
No, that's right. It kind of, I was thinking along the same lines.
Yeah, and looking at these plans is not a lot of detail. You know, like you mentioned, no drainage, dumpster enclosure, stuff like that. So
Landscaping, lighting.
right, everything that we would normally review in preliminary isn't there. So
Right.
If this were to be approved and built, I'm just curious, if someone qualifies and buys one of the two affordable, it's deed restricted for 30 years, and 15 years later, the person wants to sell. This doesn't have anything to per se about this, but since we deal with this so seldom, the owner of the house 15 years from now, or 15 years after the...
It's a windfall.
Well, my point is that couple, let's say that man and woman, are they restricted to selling to someone who qualifies as affordable?
Not after, and that's another good point, because.
This is say 15 years later, it says deed restricted for 30.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I misspoke. What I was going to say is, we prefer the deed restriction to be 99 years,
Okay.
because 30 years goes by in a flash, as we
Yep.
all know. Having said that, after 99 years, I mean, who knows if the building's gonna last that long? They may be building
If we're lucky.
new buildings by then, replacement buildings. But, yeah, I always, that's my argument. So the last one holding the bag gets to sell for market rate.
But that's why I asked the question, because 30 years is not 99 years.
Exactly, but I think, and I hope that the planning department is requiring 99 years.
Tried.
Yeah. No, requiring, not trying.
Yes, sir.
My name is Joe Tavares. I'm part of the Tavares Home Solution, making the proposal. To answer that question about if you were to sell the property within 15 years, the property is deed restriction. Means when they do the title search, it will say that the person has to qualify for the income level, just as we
Yeah.
are discussing today. Even if it was to sell it the 29th, that deed restriction is still there. After the 30 years, that's when it gets removed.
I might have misunderstood the question. I
So-
agree with Mr. Tavares. I was saying that just the last part, which is after 30 years, whoever owns it gets to sell for market
Correct.
rate. Now, I will tell you, I just heard of a young couple who owns an affordable unit in Rhode Island. They're moving away, probably temporarily, and they have to sell their unit because they wanted to rent it, and that's not even allowed. So these for sale units have to be sold if you move away to another low, moderate income person.
Can they or can't they realize a profit?
Well, it would be the affordability at that time.
Okay.
So obviously, if you own a property for 10 years, there may be, the median income is gonna go up. So the market rate sales price is gonna go up.
Okay.
But, so it's all very highly regulated.
It's based on the table, and the table changes with the interest rate, with the
Yes.
market, and the
Yes.
income and all of that. And the other part that I wanted to address was about the maintenance. There's definitely going to be a condo association to address mainly the snow and the landscaping. That's gonna be part of that.
I've just never seen one. Have you done this before?
Yes, I did with other group that done it.
You've
yeah.
done it? Okay.
That's, as a matter of fact, we're working on another one now. I think if I'm gonna be the person developing the property or part of the group that develop, one of the things working in property maintenance long-term, I can guarantee you, year first, there's going to be an issue if that's not addressed at the time that you build the project. The year first will be an issue, so, yes.
Mrs. Salvatore, I'm having a tough night on this knot regarding an open street. My question was based, I guess my question was, if someone buys an affordable housing unit and they attempt to sell it before the 30 window is up, the question was, has the market size that they could sell to diminished because people have to have a certain income level?
Well, yes. The market is definitely diminished because you're taking out anybody that's not low and moderate income, right? So
That's a negative in a way, in a sense.
well, yeah, but there's a housing crisis in Rhode Island and nationally. We don't have enough housing. So
And these are at 120% of median income, not the 80%. So it is a bit higher than normal
because
affordable
for sale
apartments.
can go up to 120% of median income. Rentals can only go up to 80% of median income, so.
There was a large Globe Spotlight article. I was going to send it to you, Mr. Monaco, but I didn't. Multiple days on Massachusetts and looking at ADUs, changing the laws, allowing people to build apartments, extensions in their homes, even building a separate structure possibly in a backyard if it met certain spatial requirements, because they've got the same
We allow
problem.
that in Cumberland now.
Well, this would be state sanctioned where if they met certain requirements, it would happen everywhere by state
Well,
law.
you can expect that. You can likely, it didn't pass. It was proposed last legislative session. It didn't pass. But I would expect within the next couple of legislative sessions, if not this one, then maybe the next one, you're gonna see that.
I agree.
State mandated.
I agree.
For all these immigrants coming in.
See, that's where I get on my soapbox. It's not, it's teachers and police officers and people who just have lower income,
like thinking out
social
loud.
workers.
But everybody needs housing, and everyone deserves housing.
That's my point.
Right, so, we,
They're gonna be for
so anyway,
To get back to this particular issue here,
The camera's on you guys, so.
I'm asking for our legal advice here. Is it in our best interest at this particular time to table this particular discussion until next month, until January? Because it's confusing between now and then what's going to happen.
It's only gonna get easier for the applicant.
Well, I
so-
understand that. It makes it easier for us, too.
Well, no, I think that they're asking you for a master plan. I mean, I could tell you stories about what I've had to do in the last couple of months on SHAB. We're hearing appeals that aren't gonna matter, but people want us to hear them. They're here to ask you for an approval. You have to make your decision, whether up or down, under today's laws.
Yeah, but I'm
And you
asking,
you don't have to make the decision, but if you're ready to make a decision on conceptual master plan, then I would encourage you to do so.
okay, looking for your advice, that's all.
The thing is, where we are right now, it is unlike the other thing on the item on the agenda. This is a master plan.
Yeah, I understand.
So that.
I understand.
Well, any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion in regards to 5 Hatch Street, Assessors Plat 1, Lot 115, that we approve the master plan application, as well as the waivers for minimum lot area and maximum lot coverage, based on the findings of fact in Mr. Modica's memo to the planning board dated November 22nd, 2023.
I have a motion by Mr. Butler. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. D'Ambrosia. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes yes. Motion carries. Let's see, whoops, where are we here? So the next item on the agenda is the approval of the 2024 Planning Board calendar. Has everybody reviewed this, and is there anything that stands out?
I just want to point out one thing, that we kept the meeting at the last Thursday of the month. The only difference here, the last Thursday in November falls on Thanksgiving. So we moved your meeting to the first week in December. So December 8th, I think it is, I'm not sure. That's your November meeting, and you still don't have a December meeting.
Okay.
So it's still 11 meetings.
I happen to notice that the October one is on Halloween,
Oh, yeah,
which,
right. You're landing on all the holidays.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah, that's,
You want to go for the 24th?
Nope, nobody comes to my house anyway.
Me neither.
yeah, my daughters would be pretty upset.
Any thoughts?
We can all come in costume and.
Since we pushed out your November meeting a week, you want to push out the October meeting and make that November 7th?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the calendar with the change of the October meeting to November 7th.
Okay, motion by Mr. Butler,
Second.
seconded by Mr. McDonald. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let's see, where are we? Okay. Public comment.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Butler.
under public comment, I just wanted to thank Mr. Stevens. This is his swan song with us. So I did email you, John, and just expressed my appreciation. I think you've been very transparent, very honest. You've taken on a lot of very difficult situations during your time in the town, but you've handled them very well. You know, as I said, very transparently, very openly. It's been very comfortable working with you. You've been very knowledgeable, very proactive about reaching out when you thought there might be issues or to seek advice. So I think you've done a great service to the town. We're in a much better place thanks to your service. And I'm very happy that Glenn is taking over. I think he's going to be a great successor, and will kind of build upon your good work. So thank you very much, and happy retirement.
Well, he certainly made our job a lot easier.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you. Well said. Thank you.
And I was going to wear my bow tie tonight, and I didn't.
I forget about it, please.
Okay, motion to adjourn by Ms. Rashid.
Second.
Seconded by the entire board.
This time in the chair.